Why don't we go ahead and get started, even though we have a relatively small group in the room. I think others will trickle in. Apparently I had something is up with the coalition website, so I changed the link on there to make it point to this room, but I'll investigate that after we're done this morning. So welcome everyone to what's going to be a shorter than usual coalition meeting this Friday. We really wanted to still hold this space for folks to be able to share what they're seeing on the streets in particular, and then share any emerging concerns or things that we can do to help those who are outdoors. The context this week is clearly it has been the weather has been a little bit more habitable outside this week. We haven't had to have daily cold weather meetings with the county. However, there are meetings that have still been going on this week. And looking at our 10-day forecast, it does look like there's the possibility over the weekend of temperatures getting near freezing, but we are not looking at another cold spell, at least in the current 10-day forecast. So with that background, why don't we just go ahead and open things up to talk about what folks are seeing on the streets. And if you could just raise a hand or use the raised hand function and let me know what you're seeing and what you'd like to share, we can go through that. So anything, Jan?
Yes, earlier this week, I got a phone call from Jay, who I hope can join us here. Jay was notified somehow, either through our inclement weather listserv, or somehow Jay was notified that FOB Hope was out of water. So I was able, my husband, has that connection with Nourish Warehouse, went down, broke open a pallet of bottled water, brought 200 bottles of water plus some other items from the Nourish Warehouse. But it was on a holiday. It was on a Christmas weekend holiday. My question is, why is there no City of Tacoma contact person available for City of Tacoma sanctioned sites? At the beginning of COVID, when City of Tacoma was opening up warming centers, then there was a City of Tacoma representative, because MRC provided nursing coverage at some of these warming centers. And I was able to call the City of Tacoma when there was an issue. So do we know that the City of Tacoma is not offering management support during holidays and weekends and all that? That was the big glaring problem that I recognized for that particular incident.
Yeah, I don't think we have anybody from the city on the call right now. I did want to share, I did have a conversation with Caleb Carbone from the city a couple of days ago. And one of the things that I wasn't aware of this situation, but I did let him know that one of the ongoing challenges that we keep having, both with the city and the county in terms of response to cold and hot weather instances, is that they always seem to be happening on weekends and across holidays. And that severely impacts the ability to do outreach and to get things to people. So I told him that was one of the point of the conversation I had with Caleb, was to kind of debrief a little bit on some of the things that I said in Matt Driscoll's column that came out last weekend. And that was one of the points I wanted to make with him. So I think we probably need to double back with Caleb and see if he has a more specific answer. I'm definitely not aware, since I'm not in between those city sanctioned sites and the city staff, what the contact procedures are between those folks on weekends and holidays. Sally, I think the answer to that question is no, not yet. Richard might be able to to share a little bit of perspective on that. Go ahead, Richard.
I don't see what the question is.
Yeah, the question was whether the folks at 35th and Pacific have the awnings that were supposed to be put over the tents there yet.
No. I posted in chat, but I think it got truncated. No, we were there yesterday afternoon, and there are still no canopies over the tents. Communications is erratic right now. What I am told is that the encampment at 25th and Puyallup has been noticed that they will be swept this coming Tuesday morning. There is some talk that they are going to try to resist and have asked other people to join them in the resistance to the sweeps. I don't know what this means. I'm going to try to get I have some, let's call it resistance artwork from the Western Regional Advocacy Project in San Francisco that I'll try and get some of that stuff up on the telephone poles. But it's a pretty ensconced encampment, and we're just going to see how it goes. So I'm going to get down there 9:30 or 10 o'clock this coming Tuesday. Again, with communications, we're not getting notice. So this is what they're telling the people living there. Whether they show, whether they don't show, who the heck knows, but we'll be down there keeping an eye on that come Tuesday.
Thank you, Richard. Yeah, go ahead, Kenneth.
Hey, Richard, did you get the chance to see the ice? If there was an ice buildup at any of the camps, especially like on 35th, because I know that their tents were soaked.
I haven't, and again, this is where communications is difficult. They don't want people like me going into the encampment. I don't know. You use the word accountability. How do you know? You hear second hand from people that say things are still wet, but there's no ability to go in and verify what's what. So no, I specifically have not seen it. I do see the tarps have been put over the tents and tied down, but there are none of the canopies like they have at FOB Hope, which are really essential for keeping ice out. Now, I am hearing that there are heaters in the tents, which may be a good thing, but I'm also was hearing quite a bit about condensation within the tents. So what's actually going on inside of the tents, I just don't know and can't give you accurate information about that.
So we know that those igloo tents are basically like quilted regular fabric. And that's one of the reasons that they weren't holding back any of the rain. And we were really worried about the ice buildup and how that would affect if maybe it would have worked like an actual igloo. We didn't know. So if anybody hears about that, let us know, please.
Ed, go ahead. And you're muted, Ed, just so you know.
Yeah, you skip a couple of meetings, you forget how to do these things.
Zoom is hard.
I'm not sure that we ever verified anything inside tents. We would ask and accept the information that we got. And to me, going into somebody's tent to verify something, I'm not real comfortable doing that. It's their home. So I'm kind of concerned about being able to verify those things. Secondly, I have a very good friend in my Bible study that used to be on the street, is not anymore, knows everybody on the street, so to speak. And he said that they are absolutely at their wits' end as far as they have no idea where they're going. They have no idea what to do because all of the places that they knew have been swept and the city is is keeping them out of being settled. So I just wanted to let everybody know it's gotten to the point where some of the people that he knows are just throwing up their hands and sitting down. They have absolutely no idea what to do.
Yeah, that's really troubling, Ed. Thanks for sharing that. Jan?
Is anybody following the growing encampment at China Lake?
I'm aware of it, but I have not visited it. Have you been by there at all, Richard?
No, I just know it secondhand, mostly from Jan's reports. I haven't been there yet.
Definitely growing. You can see that from Highway 16. It's definitely getting larger.
A number of the encampments are getting larger, and we're seeing, I would characterize it as more desperate locations of encampments. People are putting them in places they were not putting them a year ago. Higher up on hillsides, people are trying to hide more than they were. So we're seeing them in, China Lake might be an example, but all around town where there are, groves of trees and whatnot. The encampment at Portland Bridge on the Puyallup River has expanded now to both the north and south side of the river. So there are quite a number of tents down in that area. I'm not sure how to access that other than walking down there. I haven't done that yet, but it's hard to get a good view of it. But there are a large number of tents that are down there now. Again, seemingly from the scattering of the other sweeps that have gone on, but it's hard to verify all that.
Okay, anyone else who wants to share updates on what they're seeing on the streets? Yeah, go ahead, Kenneth.
So as we predicted and expected, our team, we had a really slow week during the ice. And as soon as everything started to warm up is when we got a big bump in referrals and actually revisitation from clients that we hadn't seen in a while. So we were correct that people were hunkering down during the cold and then coming back out for services afterwards.
Yeah, that makes sense. Teresa?
Just in our neighborhood, you all know about the boulders that went up and how very, very ugly they are if you've seen them. But lately, some of the campers who used to be here are coming and putting up their tents and then being kicked out like the next day and putting up. And so we only have 1 or 2 tents at a time that keep getting moved out. But I can tell you that it's really kind of a tragic sight. It's even uglier than just the boulders to see people trying to wedge their tents between these monstrous things. So I don't know where this is going to go. The neighbors get up in arms every time someone puts a tent up. And I don't know how the city's going to manage to keep. I mean, if our neighborhood has this many times where people have had to come back and remove campers, it's got to be being repeated across the city. And it's just, when do they say this isn't working and try something new? That was into the atmosphere. I don't really expect an answer.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting observation though, because I think you're right. It is going to be repeated across the city. So the person on the phone has your hand up. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Sarah with Coma Rescue Mission. We're seeing a huge increase of individuals who are unfortunately outside of our scope of care being dropped off by the police. Also, the hospitals are getting these people cabs and Ubers and just dropping them off, and we're not a respite site, so it's been difficult for us to try to find places for these individuals so they could be safe and warm and taken care of properly. I just know that's a huge thing that we're experiencing right now.
Thank you for sharing that, Sarah. So Keith, yeah, I wonder if you could offer some thoughts.
Good morning, Sarah. My name is Keith. I'm a social worker and a manager with the Franciscan Health System. And if our healthcare system is participating in that behavior specifically, that would be St. Joseph Medical Center or St. Clair Hospital. Our commitment to the coalition is that if we have any opportunity to hear about those in real time, so that we can auto-correct and provide some education to our staff, we would appreciate that. Sometimes the care management department, the social workers and the nurse care managers in the emergency department aren't part of the disposition, especially out of the emergency department. And we can do our best to do some teaching and training with the emergency department staff in general. But you know, we want to lean into that relationship. And if you'd like, I'll put my email information in the chat, and maybe you and I can make contact separately.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you so much.
Yes,
You're welcome.
thank you for addressing that, Keith. Glad you're here.
Yeah.
Courtney?
One, she's on the phone, so she might need to hear your email out loud. And two, I'd like to know what kind of needs these people have that cannot be served by TRM, so that we know what needs we have in community to create, you know, what services we need to create for the people. And then is it possible for TRM people to document when this happens, so we know the needs of the people and where they're coming from, so we know how to trace the problem back, kind of thing. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for those points, Courtney. It's actually becoming a more and more common situation where folks are medically fragile and unable to be served in the shelter system as it exists. Jan and I went back and forth along with James Pogue this week regarding a man who's I think it was a 65-year-old man living in his vehicle, being helped by a neighbor who was seeking some sort of shelter for this person. And he was too medically fragile to be able to be served at Park Place, for instance. So there are huge gaps in the system, and the need for medical respite care. And then also, this is actually in the situation with the guy in his vehicle, it was not a respite care situation. It's actually probably needed Medicare or Medicaid sort of level care. So yeah, and then Jerome, you mentioned TFD Cares. Yeah, and as Jan is shaking her head vigorously, the funding for that program ends tomorrow. So we were informed that that's going to end at the end of the year. So that won't be a resource going forward. All right. So Sarah, was there more that you wanted to share?
Just to answer their question real quickly, individuals who are unable to get in and out of our bed system, whether that's on the men's side or the women's side, we don't have a lot of cots for everyone who doesn't get a bed. So if they're unable to, you know, take care of themselves, be self-sufficient, whether that's going to the bathroom on their own or showering on their own, getting in and out of bed on their own, that's outside of our scope of care. That's kind of what we are facing a lot of. We could do our best, but it doesn't help them if we're not equipped to take care of them. And it is true, we don't have enough respite sites, and a lot of individuals don't think that they need help, which is understandable because that's their pride and that's their will, but that also makes it difficult. But I know there's no sites realistically available for people who need that help. It sucks.
Yeah. Thank you, Sarah. And thank you for bringing the issue to the forefront. Jay, your hand's up.
Sarah and others that see people that can't get care, can we start putting it through the coalition listserv when you do find those people with like I found this person, they are not able to receive care from TRM because of they need this care. And if nothing else, we can start documenting it so we have some hard documentation to show officials that could do more if they know more.
I could definitely get with my team and my supervisors, and we could definitely get that going.
Super awesome. Thank you. The more documentation we can collect, the more that we can build cases and work against the state and work against entities that say that they can't see it.
Yep, information's king in this situation. Anyone else who had any items from the streets this week?
I just know personally from my transit from Manitou to downtown Tacoma daily, I go down Center Street and I noticed the underpass under Yakima has been cleared, mostly cleared. That's kind of a tiny encampment, but pretty long-standing. So I'm quite surprised that they extracted them.
Yeah, and I would expect and I see your hand, Andrea, we'll get right to you. I would expect though with the city's sweep schedule that they have posted, especially within the areas that are covered by the camping ban, that starting next week, we'll probably see an acceleration of any sites that are within those boundaries, folks being contacted, and if not directly ordered to leave, essentially being kind of scared into leaving. So it's one of the things we're going to have to, unfortunately, it's going to be the great reshuffling if they continue with their current plan. Go ahead, Andrea.
Wow, I have kind of a similar comment. That's disturbing to hear about the Center Street camp. I've been doing outreach at South 72nd and D, and the one day Friday, I happened to go out of town. I was receiving all kinds of texts from friends and neighbors. They're clearing the camp. And I said, what are you talking about? Because it wasn't on the schedule. There was no notice given. It was the campers were given, I believe, wait, was it Friday? I'm sorry. It was Tuesday. My days are screwed up. They were given till Wednesday to be gone. And that's what the campers that were left on Wednesday, because as soon as I got back into town the next day, I drove straight over there in the morning and pulled up and was like, hey, what happened here? And they said, we have to leave. And TPD was there when I pulled up. Solid waste was there cleaning up. So someone had to have given directions for the police and for solid waste to be there, because that have to be scheduled. And so I contacted NCS. I went out Thursday morning driving around, seeing if I could find some of the campers that I'd been in contact with to find out what happened, because there was a senior couple there. The campers told me there was a veteran there who I personally didn't meet, but I was trying to direct people to services and such, and now they're all dispersed. And so I went down to the Planet Fitness on East I in 72nd to see if people had moved down to that camp where they'd been staying in the shrub, and that looked like it had been cleared. And I'm shocked, because where did all these people go? So yeah, sorry I was signed in late, but I wanted to make sure to come here and touch base with you all, because it does appear that encampments are being swept. But I talked to Lieutenant Katz of the TPD, and he didn't have any scheduled sweeps. So he's trying to look into it. He's also checking into, the campers said that one of the officers in particular wasn't particularly kind. So he's looking into that too, without being able to contact any of the people that were dispersed. Like, no formal complaint can be made. Nothing can be worked on to resolve the issue. If there was something about the officer's performance that wasn't, that needed to be corrected or directed, with, gentle guidance, like, oh, hey, you can't approach this way. Or so we're working on that. Feel like somebody somewhere told somebody to go sweep these areas, but no one seems to know who that is. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Andrea. I'm looking at that webpage that I just put the link in the chat too, and I don't see any mention of that particular sweep. So yeah, I also see your comment, Sally. I don't know what has happened with the city. I'm gonna get a hold of Caleb after this meeting and be sure to request that they return to letting us know about sweeps. They seem to be relying on this webpage rather than notifying us. And with the number of sweeps that folks are mentioning, it's much higher numbers than we had seen previously in the year too. Dion?
Excuse me, sorry. So I'm not on the streets. I'm more in my office talking to people that are on the streets. And I'm kind of looking for input because what I'm hearing a lot of when I'm hearing from people on the phone or by email is that they are having a hard time accessing resources, including St. Vincent de Paul, because they don't want to leave their stuff because they are far from us now. So we're within a camping van radius. And I'm
Right.
unsure at this point. And I'm open to brainstorming ideas with this group and literally anybody who wants to shoot me an email of how we can address the new barriers of people not being able to access the resources easily. Because I'm already hearing that it's a problem and I haven't come up with any creative solutions to it. So I'm asking people when I'm talking to them, but they don't know quite yet either. You know, it kind of takes community. So if anybody has any input, I would love to hear it.
Thanks for calling that out, Dion. Courtney?
A couple things. One is I drove past the Fife Street, like 39th and Fife Street camp, and they had like a 2-person cleanup crew out there, which gave me pre-sweep vibes or early sweep vibes. But I didn't see any posting, but I didn't stop. I was kind of en route to something, so I saw action there, but to my knowledge, nothing scheduled. And then regarding what Dion said, you know, I think it's really important that we be documenting as much of this as possible. You know, how many people is say, you know, 25-year-old Black female complains can't come in because too far. You know, whatever the complaint is, a plain detail list of that would be helpful. And then I talked to Christina Walker, who supposes but doesn't know for sure that the review is going to come at the end of December, but that's a little shy of 3 months review for the camping ban. But we also all need to step up during public comment when the time for the camping ban review comes up, because we're the ones that you know, aside from the people on the street living it, the space providers you're the ones that know the most about what the impact, and you can't be disregarded quite the same way as the homeless people can. So we really need people to be prepared to step up and speak out. Thank you.
Thank you, Courtney. Jay?
I agree with Courtney that we need to speak up and stand out. I agree also, or I would like to raise the point that we can talk before something is brought up. We can go and do public comment, whether it's on the docket or not. We can go and tell our stories, whether that's on the docket or not. If there is public comment and you have lived experience, whether you are pertinent to that day or not, get there, tell them their story, and be known. The battle of silence is communication and telling stories and being loud, since they want us to be quiet. The biggest thing with Tacoma is lately with their sweeps and stuff, they're handing out information like a way to say, yes, we're being cooperative, see this, and then doing things without any warning, any communication, any form of document.
You cut out there, Jay.
We're getting a forward movement to kind of hide what is actually happening. And so we need to know why there's two separate things going on from Tacoma, one silent and one very visible. How do we knock on their door and say, hey, we see you?
Yeah, I think observing and documenting is important throughout this, and especially like Courtney mentioned, providers who are seeing a change in a decrease in the number of folks who are able to access the services that you're offering. That those kinds of anecdotes are going to be really important to let city officials know about, because whether intentional or not, that's the real impact of the camping ban. Ed, go ahead.
Well, one that has never backed off from bringing up bad subjects. The city will not share information with us as far as names and people in different encampments. And there's nothing legally restricting us from talking to people and saying, now, what was your name? And writing it down. And do you have a phone number that I can contact you back? And write it down. We as private citizens can ask anybody their name. And my suggestion is, if we want to change the way the city is operating, one of the steps is that we know who's out there. We know how many people in each encampment. When you get there, get names, get phone numbers, and that way we can track people. And I send them to me. I'll create a database of them and where they are, because that's one of the things the city is hiding behind, is we can't bring suit on a mass level. We have to bring suit on an individual level. Well, we've asked multiple times for Caleb and those folks to share the information that they have, and they don't or won't. Actually, I get no response from them when asked. So, you know, this may be against what some people believe, but we need names. We need to know who's there. So yeah, if you get names and phone numbers, send them to me. Tell me where they are, and we'll create a database so that we can track them.
I mean, you're correct, Ed, especially as folks get all cleared out of the sites within the camping ban zones. We're going to need to know, all of us will need to know, and especially providers and outreach teams will need to know where people have gone so that they can reach them. All of those relationships that are developed between outreach workers and those individuals who are in those sites get broken when they have to move. So that's going to be a critical piece. Jay?
One of the things to consider is, one, using the media. Two, it has been brought up in the past that we do need names and dates, and it is something that, like RC, other agencies in other townships and otherwise, like King County and otherwise, do share name and birth date for people out of necessity between the service agencies. So something to consider is creating a form and a database that's maybe either run by the coalition or RISE or someone else that's outside of HEMIS, that is form based, so that we take a picture.
You muted, Jay.
Sorry, that's signed by somebody that says you have permission to transmit my name and birth date so that I can continue to receive services. Please put this in this database. Because right now that is one of our greatest challenges is everybody saying, well, HIPAA and privacy. Well, if a person signs that saying these people can use this and these people can access this, and it's a signed document, then we shouldn't have as many problems. And we can do that simply with taking a picture of the document that's been signed with our phone and keeping it in a database. And that would allow us to communicate within the coalition scope at least.
Well, and Jay, HIPAA does not cover someone telling me their name. I'm not
Right.
bound by HIPAA at all. So
Yeah, it's just medical
The
information.
point is documenting it. The point is getting a form saying that you can use my name and say it. That's the point. It's not the exact terminology of what's preventing us. It's we could use a form and create a database and make it accessible is the point.
yeah, oh yeah. I mean, that's until we get serious about tracking the folks that are out there and getting their names and phone numbers, the city's not going to pay a lot of attention to us because they can always say, well, gee, we're sorry, but we think this is the best way to go, which is exactly what they've done.
Well, this is a good conversation and one that probably needs to continue at a later point, something to think about here in the coming week or so. But it's definitely something to chew on. Rosemary, you had something to add?
I just wanted to say that with the point in time count coming up and the comments about people hiding in spaces and being in places that they're pushed beyond where they might be expected to be, I don't know how much the county folks are aware of the Tacoma situation. So we just ought to be sure that we communicate that at the next meeting we have, so that is well known throughout.
Thank you, Rosemary. And Teresa?
So I know there are a lot of people in this room who do know Maureen. I just got a text from her daughter, Beth, and she's in the hospital, and Beth says it's pretty serious. So she asked for people to keep Maureen in your hearts today. Just passing that on.
Thank you, Teresa. Okay, so yeah, go ahead, Jan.
Is this a good time to talk about the the good news of the $5,000 from the what foundation was that anyway? That
The
thinks that
Kilworth Foundation.
Kilworth Foundation. One way to support the work that we do is when you find out that there might be funding sources. None of us individually can act as a representative from the coalition, but we can promote the work of our partners who belong to the coalition and identify a particular project and then work with that partner to see if they qualify for funding. So in this particular case, the Kilworth Foundation found out that we do inclement weather response as a coalition, and that St. Vincent de Paul is a great provider of supplies to our outreach teams. So $5,000 was awarded to St. Vincent de Paul just based on everybody working together. And so Dion has done a great job of assisting in our logistical needs for support items to reach those who are unsheltered during inclement weather. So I just want to mention that when possible, think about supporting our partners in this work. And then the support also means financial support whenever possible. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jan, and thank you for seeking that out, and it'll be put to good use, I'm sure, by Dion and the folks there. All right, so this was intended to be a short meeting. We're about 42 minutes into it. if there's one thing that we're good at, it's meeting and kind of chewing on the tough issues and dealing with the tough realities of life. Before we wrap up today, I just want to open the floor for anything that people wanted to share for the good of the order. And then also to announce that for sure, next week we will be back to our normal 2-hour meetings. And we already have a few items that we know we want to cover next week. But if you do want to hang on this call after we wrap up, we will do a little bit of planning. So I see a couple of hands up for items for the good of the order, and let's start with Sally.
So I just wanted to tell people that Maureen will receive a Social Justice Award from the Conversation 253 at the Martin Luther King event that they put on January 15th, and I will provide the information for you all to attend through the listserv.
Thank you for doing that, Sally. And Carolyn.
Hi, Carolyn Reed. I just want to thank everybody and anybody that helped us get the revenue for housing 1/10 of 1% initiative in front of the Pierce County Council. Unfortunately, they did not pass it, but they did agree to revisit the tax in March. And my understanding is when the council does that, it's pretty apparent that the fifth vote, which would be a Republican, will probably occur. But nonetheless, I think we still need to be vigilant and continue to write letters and get in front of the county council and tell them how important this money is. And because they're not, passing it right now, they're losing several of the $20 million a year that they could be collecting. So time is wasting, as you know, and time is important, and that money, we need that money. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Much work to do in the new year for sure. Anyone else with just an item for the good of the order? And Sally, I see your hand still up. Is that from before, or did you want to add something? Okay. Verda, go ahead.
I've really benefited from being on these calls. One of the things I think about is there are so many people out there who don't have information. Like we have parties where we get together and watch football and things like that. Maybe if we could start reaching out and having groups to listen to the city council meetings, and especially when they have open forum, I think we'll get a much bigger picture even than we do with if there's a news report in the paper, or if there's something on TV, it's only a few seconds, where if we listen to that whole 2 or 3 hours, I think we can get the citizens to realize just how dire some of the issues are. They can get more of the full story. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Verda. And that reminds me of of a conversation that happened earlier in December, where there was a request that that members of the coalition do a campaign showing up at county and city council meetings and sharing some of those stories as individuals during public testimony. So that's something we should consider doing here in the new year as well. Because the impact of those stories is going to be much greater than, as you said, somebody reading it or as an individual, putting it right in front of those council members, whether at the city or county, will have a much greater impact. Anyone else with items for the good of the order before we close our short meeting today? All right, well, I want to thank everybody for being here. Carolyn, go ahead.
I forgot to, did you guys see that article in the newspaper about the city of Tacoma is going to have a community quote discussion that is going to be, they're working with University of Washington, Tacoma, something to keep an eye on, some kind of community discussion forum around homelessness.
Yeah, we did see that. We discussed that a little bit at the, excuse me, at the steering committee meeting on Wednesday. Yeah, something we're definitely tracking, and we'll want to make sure that the voices of the coalition are involved.
All right, well, just this discussion, that would be a great place to start. Okay.
Or repeat the start, I think.
Right.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jan.
Is Monday an official recognized holiday? And if so, does Safe Sites for All want to postpone?
Yes, I think it is.
It is. It's just a question of whether you still want to hold it with the likely smaller turnout or not.
Correct. Are there enough folks on this meeting that would attend a Monday noon Zoom? Verna will. Okay, got it. See you all Monday.
I was
And
going to
Richard.
say, Jan, did you want to follow the rules? I mean, that's strange for you.
Yeah.
I look, I'm out 7 days a week. The homeless people are out 7 days a week. If we start missing meetings because of friggin' holidays, we start acting like the bureaucrats that are part of the problem of this whole thing. I strongly encourage you to continue with the meeting, even if it's truncated like today, that's fine. But if we start following holiday schedules, we're just like the folks that aren't doing outreach on the weekends in cold weather. So I'm all for continuing to meet. Thank you.
That was a demonstration of Richard biting his tongue.
Yeah. All right. Thanks everybody for being here. Thanks for a good 2022, and let's hold Maureen in all of our thoughts today. And if you want to hang on the call and we do some planning.